Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Hottest Keenan podcast. As we just start and kick off the 2023 MLB offseason, it's going to be a wild ride between now and April 1st. It's a lot of question marks, a lot of things that are still very much in the air. Have no idea how this is going to turn out. But first, before we get started, I'd like to introduce my other co-host, Alex. We'll start with you. How you doing?
I want to get this thing going. I want next season to start already, but before that, we need to make a lot of moves.
Yes, absolutely. Enrique, how are you doing?
Doing great, Sean, as always, man. Thank you. I like Alex, I'm ready for the season to get started already. Maybe not as much as Alex because I still need a break to recover from losing to Houston yet again. I don't know if I'm completely over that yet. And plus, I want to see Aaron Judge back in a Yankee uniform before I can say I'm ready for next year. I don't know how ready I'll be for next year if that man is not in a Yankee uniform.
It's going to be something we're going to be glued to the TV, glued to our phones. We're going to be watching, over and over again on repeat. We'll have zillions of reporters or fake reporters now that Twitter is what it is, telling us who's a Yankee, who's not, and, seeing all the fake accounts pop up here and there. But we'll get into all that. We'll be right back.
It is high, it is far, it is gone.
Ahí va, por el left field, olvídala, esa bola cae en la calle. Esa se fue.
And we're back. Before we start diving in, we told you guys last episode that we were gonna have some fun with this. Before the offseason really gets underway, starting on November 10th, we were gonna play some GM. So too early predictions, some too early decision making that we would think about doing, or what we think the Yankees should look at. Make some decisions, argue with each other, agree with one another, and just go all in. First, I want to give a special shout out to Aaron Judge, like we did in the previous episode, for winning the Hank Aaron Award, the Silver Slugger, and breaking the AL home run record previously held by Roger Maris, and of course, being the AL MVP of the 2022 MLB season. I do want to give my flowers to Jose Treviño and DJ LeMahieu for winning the Gold Glove, and also to Jose Treviño again for winning the Platinum Glove. Jose winning it for the first time, a tremendous upgrade at catcher from last year with having Gary Sanchez, and getting Jose Treviño at almost the last second. And what an incredible defensive catcher he was for us last year. I couldn't be happier to have someone that skilled defensively and someone that the pitchers can trust with throwing everything that they got and their repertoire. And also, I'd like to give it to DJ, because DJ was an unsung hero for almost this entire year. Yes, the hitting wasn't what we wanted it to be, from 2020 and 2019, but he played every position in the infield basically, and he did it an incredible job. I trusted him wherever he was put out in the infield, and I loved every second of it. What did you think, Enrique, of both of their seasons?
With DJ, we're almost spoiled, where I'm not surprised he got a Gold Glove. I mean, you've seen it from him ever since he got here. You saw it from him when he was a Colorado Rocky. So that part doesn't surprise me. You always knew he was a whiz on the field. The Jose Treviño one is the one that's more impressive for me, especially because we got to remember, ladies and gentlemen, this guy shouldn't have been a Yankee. If Ben Rortvedt didn't get hurt, there would be no Jose Treviño. There would be no Jose Treviño success story. There would be no Jose pointing up at the sky for his father, the clutch moments on the field, defensively, not to mention offensively, because let's not forget how clutch he was hitting as well. I mean, kudos to him, man. What a year. What a year. And what a good guy he was. You know what I'm saying? He deserves every bit of praise he's getting, both as a player and as a human being. I couldn't be happier for him.
I mean, getting Treviño was a huge move for the Yankees. Getting a little bit more stability back, back behind home plate. The offense was a surprise because nobody expected that. Obviously, he tailed off second half. He might not be built yet for 130 games. Maybe that's something he'll work on in the offseason to build up that endurance to have, to be able to probably withstand the dog days a little bit better. But he was an upgrade over Sanchez, definitely. I mean, anything was a defensive upgrade over Sanchez, and he'll be back. And I don't see the Yankees making any moves there. And as far as DJ goes, that dude, I love DJ LeMahieu. So at third base he was a whiz. Second, first, didn't matter. I'm glad they developed that utility Gold Glove, and he deserves every single piece of that.
Moving forward, I want to start talking about the Yankees free agency and the Yankees offseason coming up. It's gonna be we're in for a wild ride. That's the best way I can explain it. This is the very first time, and I said this on the last episode, this is the first time that I have no idea the direction of where the Yankees are going. Last year it was very clear what we needed. We had Cashman saying almost the same thing. We needed that shortstop. We needed another guy. He filled the holes that he needed to, and especially with that Twins trade, I think we can look back at it now and say that deal did not necessarily work out, unless Ben Rortvedt is some secret answer that we don't know about. But as we head into,
Can I ask you really quick?
Sure.
Sean, before you keep going? I'm gonna pose this question to both of you. If the Yankees didn't have to take on $20 million on that Minnesota Twins trade for Josh Donaldson, would we view that trade differently if we didn't have to take on that Donaldson money?
honestly, yeah, I would, but at the same time, not really, because the Yankees desperately needed a change of catcher. And to see Sanchez get dealt, which was something I really wanted. But to see Gio thrown in there hurt. But I knew that Cashman had his eyes on IKF for almost 2 years before that. So seeing that move, I was kind of excited to see, okay, Cashman's got this kid that he's been looking for the last 2 years. He finally got an opportunity. And when he got traded to the Twins initially, I was like, darn, he missed out on IKF again just to see him get traded the very next day to us. But yeah, Donaldson's $25 million hurts us because we saw what happened with that $25 million, what should have happened for us. Yankee fans were begging for a shortstop, and we took on Donaldson's money so that the Twins could go get Correa. How did that make sense? And going into that offseason, the Twins were sellers. So they traded Mitch Garver and to the Texas Rangers after the Texas Rangers had that incredible offseason with getting 2 shortstops. And you're thinking, okay, so the Twins are selling, or the Twins are getting ready to sell, or they're not preparing to buy. But then I think they saw that move that Cashman offered to the Twins, and they were like, wait a second. They want to take $50 million from us for Josh Donaldson? All right. I could deal with the rental and Gary Sanchez, whatever. And they did it. And then they got Chris Archer. They got Sonny Gray. They made other moves to backpack that. Okay, we got Correa. Let's keep going. And granted, it didn't work out for them because it's the Twins. So what else do you really expect?
I mean, getting rid of Sanchez was vital to this team's long-term success because you just had to move on from the quote-unquote potential that we all knew. He peaked his rookie year. He peaked in 2017. What can you do? That's when he peaked. Getting rid of Gio was an issue. Getting back Donaldson, I was actually kind of cool about that move. Enrique and I spoke about that a while ago. Is that the leaders in exit velo in the league were in that order. It was Stanton, Judge, and Donaldson. So you had the 3 guys leading the league in exit velo on the same lineup. There was, you just didn't anticipate this complete and utter drop off in offense just from one day to the next, basically. And it just felt like it was just we saw Donaldson play a lot when he was with Toronto, and that looked like a shell of I don't even know what. Can't even say of himself. I don't even know what the hell that was, because again the bat control was just nowhere to be found. It always felt like he was barely hanging on to the bat whenever he would take a swing. And, it was just not there. And then I saw IKF play, sporadically with Texas. And I was like, all right, I didn't think anything special of the kid. I really didn't. I thought, okay, he's can put him in different positions. That's more of a utility type player. Then when I actually saw him in a Yankee uniform and saw him play, I was just immediately unimpressed to just to the point there. I'm like, we just have a Jag, just another guy at shortstop, and that is not exactly how you envision a Yankee shortstop. You envision a Yankee shortstop to be more than just another guy. So, did I like the move? At the time I did. No doubt I like the move. Do I wish we didn't have that money on the books? Again, it's not my money, but I know it's preventing them to do other moves because, we just have a very cost conscious front office. So, yeah, I'm not thrilled about that part. And I'm not thrilled about the fact that Donaldson, in all likelihood, will be our third baseman next year. Defensively, I have no issues. Defensively, the guy's been a whiz. Like, there was no drop off between Urshela and Donaldson, defensively speaking, zero. So I have no issues defensively whatsoever. I'm actually quite confident in him as a third baseman defensively, but offensively, that was a freaking disaster. And I don't know if another year in that uniform is going to fix that.
The funny thing is that when we got Donaldson, you would think almost the opposite. Like you thought that the offense would be there, but because of the lingering shoulder issues he's had over the years, that would come into play. And I think the Yankees thought that way because they constantly were pushing him towards DH to get DJ LeMahieu more time at third base because you had Gleyber stuck at second with the whole fiasco from 2021. So you were kind of prepared to get Stanton more time in the outfield and make it work. But the opposite happened, and arguably Donaldson has his worst offensive year since his rookie year. So there's a lot to be said about Donaldson now that we still have to pay him another $25 million this year. It's a lot. I feel like that will come into play and cost us of going into deep waters with free agents this year. So I'm not sure how it's going to play out. And I agree with you, Alex, a little bit about how I feel about Donaldson's defense. I think he was great this year, no doubt about it. But will it happen again next year? Will he be good again next year? And because it's not like we've seen it throughout his career of constantly being this good. Well, it's a lot of question marks there. And do I want him as my third baseman next year? No, I'll come out and say it. I don't want IKF there on, next to him. I don't want that either. But it's something we'll see down the road. But first, before we get into position players, I want to go into the pitchers, starting pitchers, relief pitchers, and all that jazz. Enrique, I'll start with you on this one. Jameson Taillon is a free agent as of now. We got a couple free agents out there. What do you see the Yankees doing regarding pitching now that Taillon, Zach Britton, Miguel Castro, and Aroldis Chapman are all free agents? Do you see any of those guys coming back? And if not, or yes, do you see the Yankees going out and making something outside the organization, another move?
Aroldis Chapman basically wore out his welcome, so he's not coming back, and that hurts me as a fellow Cuban. I don't know, yo no sé si tú piensas igual, Alex, como tú eres cubano también, pero I don't know if you think the same, but as a fellow Cuban,
que se joda.
Que se joda. Okay. Bueno,
Yeah, que se joda.
ya tú sabes, if that's what you think, Pablo, but hey, and I can't blame you for saying that. I'm sure other Yankee fans that listen to this podcast that are also cubanos también dicen lo mismo, que se joda, que se vaya para la tú sabes dónde, because I mean, what has he done recently, on the field performance-wise? He's quite possibly responsible for blowing the biggest games of the postseason for us. And then you add to the fact the thing where he just didn't want to report to practice on the field training before the playoffs because, if you can't guarantee me a playoff spot, sorry, I'm not coming. Like, really? So, nah, I think he wore his welcome. Britain, I feel like his time has come and passed. He just hasn't shown to be reliable as far as his health is concerned. So I feel like he's going to be gone. I could see them bringing back Miguel Castro. I know they really liked him. I know Boone liked him. I know the organization liked him despite his control issues. And Tyone, I wouldn't bring him back, but that's a big question mark because he's another one that I know the organization likes. Plus, he's Garrett Cole's homeboy. You know what I'm saying? They know each other from Pittsburgh, and I could see the Yankees adding one guy, maybe two from the notable free agent list there. Um, selfishly, even though I know it won't happen, I would love to see us steal Jacob DeGrom from the Mets, but I know that's not happening. Would I like to see us, piggyback to Justin Verlander after almost getting him last year? Sure. He could be a good add, especially as a veteran presence, especially after just winning a World Series. You could piggyback to Evaldi. You know what I'm saying? The problem with a lot of these guys is they're already in their 30s. So how reliable are they? I don't know. You know what I'm saying? But maybe go after a Sean Manaea. He's only 31 right now. You know what I'm saying? You could go after him. I know the popular name is Carlos Rodon. I'm sorry, I'm still not a fan. I know everybody wanted him at the trade deadline. I'm not a fan of the guy. That's just me. I say if you are going to get a guy from there, why not go after a Justin Verlander or, go after somebody that's a veteran that you could slot in there. Somebody that's a veteran, but not like a tail end of their career veteran like what we did with Corey Kluber. Let's not do that again. Alex, what about you?
I mean, that rotation's pretty set, man. I mean, we traded for a hurt pitcher. Let's just keep it real. Right before he got traded to the Yankees, he had spent some time in the DL with shoulder issues. So, that's actually why his price tag went down. That's why it's viewed that what we traded for him was actually pretty much a quote unquote steal because he was previously hurt. And obviously that carried over to the Yankees. It just didn't work out. The guy's a stud. I'm not even going to knock him whatsoever. The guy is a stud pitcher, and he's going to slot in. He's going to be the most above average fourth starter in the entire league. So I have no issues about Frankie Montas whatsoever. Now, Montas was brought in to directly replace Jameson Taillon in that rotation. He has 1 year left on his deal, just like Taillon did when we traded for him. So he's there to replace Taillon. That's just the reality. Your 1, 2, and 3 are set in stone. Montas is 4. As far as 5th goes, yeah, you got Herman. Yeah, I mean, I would love to see Clark Schmidt get a shot as a starter, full-time starter. He has a starter repertoire. I don't care. That's it. If you're going to sign somebody else, you need a reclamation project. Somebody who was hurt last year, needs to build up their value, whatever it is. We did that with, we did it with Kluber. He was just a hurt guy. We brought him in and, he pitched okay. Obviously, he pitched a no-hitter. So, somebody like that, I'm looking at the list. I've always been a fan of Matthew Boyd. I like that guy. Reclamation project. Syndergaard's pretty much done. Don't even waste your time there. But we're talking about reclamation projects. It's guys who have been hurt and just need just need a shot to win a rotation spot to hopefully build up their value. I see Mike Clevenger here. Stuff. Someone of that ilk is what I see. Is what I can see the Yankees doing. Rumor has it there was that Pablo Lopez was on the table in a Gleyber deal. Revisit that trade immediately. Revisit it immediately because Gleyber is just one of those players that I feel cannot be on the roster next year.
The Yankees had a huge problem last year, and that was having a closer that could get 3 outs in the 9th inning. Something we have continued to struggle with year to year, but this year specifically, we almost had no closer throughout almost the entirety of the year. Now that Chapman's off the books and clearly not coming back, Britton's gone, Chad Green's a free agent, most likely gone, but he could come back on a 1 year cheap deal because of the Tommy John surgery. Who's someone, and Alex, I'll ask you this first. Do you think that the Yankees will go in-house for a closer, or do you think that they'll look for someone in the free agency market? Craig Kimbrell, hopefully god awful not. Kenley Jansen, something like that, where they could look for a closer to, be that ninth inning guy that can close the door and has ice water in his veins, so to speak. What do you think?
I don't see it happening. I really, really don't. I see them. I think the closer of this team is in house right now. I really do. Is it ideal? Maybe, maybe not. There are, again, what you see out there are either players that are just going to demand just way too much money, and I don't see them going that route, in their spending tendencies this offseason. And you have reclamation projects. Like that's what you have out here. And the only one that kind of stands out to me, maybe Taylor Rogers, maybe Michael Fulmer, because these are reclamation projects. These are guys who struggled at some point last season that have closer experience. I mean, I love Michael Fulmer. I think he has all the talent in the world, especially in the bullpen. So that's the only thing that I can actually see them doing is reclamation projects to see if they step up as closer. You can give Greg Weissert a chance. He just won reliever of the year for AAA. So you could give him a chance. And again, you could just go ahead and revisit Clay Holmes as a closer again. The guy made the All-Star team. He got hurt. He legitimately got hurt. He did not come back to full strength. He had control issues, but we saw that before that was the most calm that us Yankee fans have ever been when seeing a guy come in to close the game since probably Rivera. So if he's healthy, I want that dude to be my closer if he's healthy. But I can definitely see them filling up this bullpen with again, talented reclamation projects. Michael Fulmer might be on a 1-year deal. Taylor Rogers might be on a 1-year deal. These are all guys that will sign for they're probably not looking for multi-year deals. Taylor Rogers and Michael Fulmer were dealt at the trade deadline. Did they perform well with their team? Well, Taylor Rogers was basically the closer for Milwaukee, just by default. No, him and Devin Williams. Yeah, my bad. So they were just by default. He was, half closing, half not. But again, I'm talking about reclamation projects are the key to this bullpen. They need to have those type of players in there that can just fill the innings that you're losing from these other guys.
I think Aroldis Chapman is as good as gone, and you have to at least give Clay Holmes the chance to win that job back. You got to see with Holmes if he's all the way back, if he's healthy again, and not just healthy, but if he has his control back, because you got to remember, and for all we know, it is because of his injury concerns, but he didn't have the same control in the latter parts of the season. You know what I'm saying? He didn't have that pinpoint accuracy that we saw in the beginning of the year that made him an all-star. We saw a guy that basically reverted to exactly what we feared he was going to be when we first traded for him from Pittsburgh. That was the scouting report on him. A guy with a killer arm, great velocity, great stuff, but no control. That's what he became in the latter parts of the season. He's got to come to spring training and show he has that control back. If he does, I absolutely agree with the both of you. He's the closer, no questions asked, especially because he's shown you how dominant he can be. But man, let me tell you something. A Kenley Jansen would be really good in pinstripes. Like, worst case scenario, he could be your 8th inning guy. You know what I'm saying? If Clay Holmes rounds out back to form, he could be your 8th inning guy and your insurance policy if Clay Holmes struggles again. Kenley Jansen has shown you that he can do it. So I would get him, especially if, and like you said it earlier, Alex, it's not my money, so I'm talking about I would get him, but I would get him especially if he's not commanding the money he was earlier in his career. If you can get him for cheaper than what his market value was before, when he was an all-star with Los Angeles, by all means, go for a guy like that. That's what I would do.
Jansen had a great year with Atlanta, but again, we're talking about what we would do, sure. I mean, I'm not even thrilled about Kimbrel. I'm not thrilled about Jensen. Obviously, Kimbrel's just done. As far as with the free agents that are out there, I go back to this. If whoever wins the competition at shortstop, if that's what you're gonna do, when it comes to Volpe and Peraza, well, guess what? The loser needs to get traded because we've talked about it before. You cannot hold on to these people for too long because then they show you that they might not be as good as you think they are, and then they lose all value. They lose all value. So maybe the closer of this team may not be on the roster. Maybe it's not even a free agent. But at some point, you have to do some kind of move and name somebody. I think it's Holmes. If he's healthy, he's going to be the guy. And I'm okay with that. Like, we have to be okay with that. But ultimately, when it comes down to it, you need to use these guys that are not going to be part of the next 2, 3, 4, 5-year plan and get the proper players on that roster.
I don't think we go after someone big name like that because I think the Yankees learned a valuable lesson with spending a lot of money for Britton and Chapman, and we got almost 40 million coming off the books between Britton, Chapman, and Chad Green. So I think they will stay either in house and go out and get some I think they can go out and get Chad Green because he'll be on a cheap deal due to the injury. I think they can go out and get a Taylor Rogers or someone of that caliber or someone that could be less than 5 million, 6 million, something small on a 1-year deal, so the pitcher can prove it and the Yankees can see what they can get out of him because Kenley's still going to require probably around 13 to 15 million a year to be and still wants to be a closer sort of role. He was an 8th inning guy and would close for Atlanta at times. But he was one of the biggest closers there was from 2021 and before that. So with the Dodgers, so I still think he thinks of himself in that regard, and he waited a long time to sign last year. He was one of the last signings there were, and I think, to be honest with you, I don't think the Yankees go out and do anything like that. If I were the GM, yeah, I would look into someone like Taylor Rogers or Andrew Chafin, something like that, something small, little to get 7th, 8th inning guys in there. Now that like I said, we don't have Scott Efros, but I don't know. There's not many free agents out there that I'm confident in that could be a closer. Especially in New York, it's tough. There's no one that's a guarantee like Mariano anymore, so we're spoiled in that regard. So, I think the best one we had to replace him was Chapman at the time. It almost seemed like a perfect fit for us to get someone like Chapman. So it's something we'll see.
Hold on now. I'm not trying to interrupt you, Sean, but don't discount what Robertson did for a little while, man.
Yeah, and I think
Houdini,
David Robertson,
bro, come on. You got to give him his props. Give him his flowers.
I give him his flowers for a year or two because there were definitely some years where he was one of the scariest people to have come out. I'll never forget.
He was terrifying.
Let's not forget the whole Jeter last game moment. The only reason that Jeter had that moment was because Robertson gave up. I was there. I was at that game. And it was the only time I was hoping that Robertson would give up a home run because I knew he would. And Chapman, when he came to the Yankees, was just all fastball, basically. A little bit of a slider, but he was the only one touching 104, 103 with ease. Now he's not, he's older. He's not going to do that anymore. With Chapman, you saw the head case in there within 2 to 3 years ago, and that was Chapman's problem. Chapman had the stuff, especially even the splitter was nasty, but he was his own worst enemy, and that happens in New York. Yeah, I think Holmes was injured a lot for a lot of it, but I also think he was in his own head too. I think there was a lot that was against him. The guy was a middle relief guy in Pittsburgh to being the closer to the Yankees in a year and a half. It's a big change. So I think he can be a closer. I think he does, do great things with us still, and he can be the closer in 2023. Am I confident in it? No, but I don't really think there's anyone out there that's willing to give up their closer or, set up man for us to have a closer. So I think it is in-house, and I do think the Yankees go and make some little moves to bolster up the bullpen because we saw in the beginning of the year how the Yankees were incredible in their bullpen, where we had so many guys to put in. We were looking at Marinaccio as the worst guy on the team at the time, and Marinaccio at the end of the season is one of our favorite, and desperately asking for him to come back for the playoffs. It just shows you how loaded we were, but injuries got to us. So I think this year you gotta be overloaded, just go crazy, have everyone you can. So if something bad happens, unfortunately with injuries, because it's gonna happen, there's a replacement there. There's someone already in the wings that can cover, for the loss of someone like Michael King, for Scott Efros, or Chad Green. You got to have that. So it's something we'll see. Moving towards position players, I want to start off with catchers. With the trade, like we talked about earlier with the Twins, Ben Rortvedt is most likely going to be on the Yankee roster. Obviously, Treviño is going to be the starter. I think they still believe in Rortvedt because they asked for him in the deal specifically. So I think they still think he's got something there, especially he's a lefty bat, something the Yankees love to have all the time. Does that, and I'll ask you first, Alex, does this push Higashioka away from the team? Do you think that the Yankees will make a move to either trade Higashioka, or do you think that they'll keep these three to compete with one another for 2 spots?
I don't think you come back to Higashioka to compete for anything, really, because Trevino did enough. He just, obviously, he just physically was not prepared for this type of workload. So that's why we saw him tail off in the second half of the season. But I expect him to obviously ramp it up. I just don't think that you're going to set up a competition for your not backup catcher, but your 40% catcher. Because that's not what's going to happen. It's going to be a 60, 40, 70, 30 split on the starts. So I think you just got to just dive into Rortvedt because he probably has the upside. You know what Kyle is. Higgy is what he is. He's a backup catcher in this league. And that's fine, dude. You're going to have a long career being a backup catcher in this league, playing, roughly 30% of the starts of a team. He's going to be fine. Do I want him back? Honestly, that's just one of those positions that I am not focused on personally as a Yankee fan, because I know Treviño is going to be the guy most of the time. Who's going to be the secondary guy? It's likely going to be Rortvedt, likely a lefty bat, some upside, young kid. I can see that. That's probably the direction that they go in. But honestly, that's just a position that I'm not too focused on. I just know they're not going to invest heavily in there this offseason.
Don't forget that the dude's jacked too. We remember that picture that was around Twitter during spring training. Like, the dude looks like he can mash. Now, can he actually mash? That remains to be seen. But if looks were a determining factor, if a dude could mash a baseball, that dude looks like he could mash a mile, a country mile, as they say. Look, we still haven't seen what this kid's capable of. By all accounts, he was pretty good in the minors. Like, he was doing pretty good for himself. So I think kind of along the lines of you, Alex, where I feel like you owe it to yourself after making that trade to see what you got in this kid, have him and Treviño compete. Would I get somebody out in the free agent market? I mean, you don't need to, but like, if an opportunity presents itself, I know Yankee fans were clamoring, and I mean clamoring, for Wilson Contreras from the Cubs. Sorry, I don't think that's happening. He's going to command money, and I feel like the Yankees are going to spend whatever money and whatever resources how allows them to spend on other positions that's not catcher. They don't see it as a position of need, in my opinion. So I don't think that's happening. And, I see our old buddy Gary Sanchez is out there. No, thank you. So it's like, if you're going to spend on a backup catcher without giving this kid Rortvedt a chance, then you're just wasting money. You might already have your backup catcher on hand and might be set with your 2 catchers with Treviño and Rortvedt. So that's what I think. I think they're going to stay in-house and just keep what they have. And to answer your initial question, Sean, yeah, I think sadly, I think Higashioka's time with the Yankees is done. I don't think he has a spot on this team anymore.
Yeah, I think we kept him along for so long. He became the personal catcher to Cole, and that quickly disappeared this year because it was almost like enough with this nonsense. And he did much better with Treviño. So it just shows that I think Higashioka's time is coming to an end. I will give it to Higgy though that he can call a great game. Maybe you didn't see it too much this year where he struggled with Cole and the whole reason why he was the personal catcher, but he did call a great game most of the time. He had a great spring training hitting, and then he really fell off during the regular season, didn't start coming alive until late in the season. But still, I think his time has come to an end. It'll be a nice competition if he is on the team between him and Rodvet, but I would be surprised if Higgy is still on the team because of the trade for Rodvet last season. I think you got to give Ben Rodvet a shot, and you have Austin Wells in the wings. And that's why I don't think they'll ever go out and get Wilson Contreras. I think that's why none of those guys that are free agents right now are something I would even entertain. I think Austin Wells is on the Yankee roster by 2024. So you just need kind of that filler for this year and see if Treviño can be another great catcher again this year and have someone like Ben see what he's got. See if he can stay on the field first and see if he can stay healthy. But I do think that Austin Wells is in the wings. We realized when making this episode that this was going to be a long episode. So we decided to split into two. And that's exactly what we're going to do. We're going to wrap up part 1, the pitchers and catchers report, as we're going to call it. We'll have an episode out on Monday as we're getting back into the groove of things as we prepare for a hopefully successful off season. Hopefully a lot of fun. We will see. We'll see you guys next time.
And go Yankees.